All right. So I guess now you understand what the plan was.
Absolutely. At Colts Law, we talk Indianapolis Colts football.
We're going to stick to what we know, fundamentals and technique, 1% better every day.
What's going on, Colts Nation? I'm Lawrence Owen, with me as usual, Colts Loyalist, who has himself muted for some reason. I don't know. Looks like he might have froze on us. But he will be back as soon as possible. He'll be in and out most likely. But either way, if you didn't see the thumbnail, it's upside down for a reason, ladies and gentlemen. Because that's what you do with a flag. If you're in distress, you fly the flag upside down. And that's to show everyone that you're in distress. And, well, guess what? The Indianapolis Colts are definitely in distress right now, sitting at 3-5. The only three teams that they've beat are 1 or 2 win teams, and they have half a season left to go, and they've got to beat, they need a minimum of 7 of these games, in my opinion, at least 7 to get into the playoffs, because 10-6 is bare minimum when you got a 17-game season. And it's going to be tight. Now, 4 of those are, I wouldn't say gimmies, because no game in the NFL is a gimme, so to speak. But it is, I would say Sunday's game against the Jets, we're expected to win. Both the games against the Jags, we're expected to win. The game against the Texans, we're expected to win. But right now, I mean, the Colts there's so many things. They haven't shown that they can close out games. What are your thoughts, Loyalist?
Yeah, I agree 100%. I mean, I'll be honest with you guys. After Sunday's game, I didn't watch Monday Night Football. I didn't watch any more football. I was so it doesn't normally affect me that way, but this game was just so important in the way that everything happened. But like you said, these guys have really dug themselves a deep hole. But we've been through this scenario before. The Colts start realizing they got to win these things to make the playoffs, and they string together a bunch of wins. Like you said, now it's I felt like if we won this game last week, that we would go in. We had a good chance to make the playoffs. And now I'm looking at every game as a playoff type game for this team, because, like you said, honestly, I don't even know if 10 wins is enough to get us in the playoffs. I mean, I know, because I fully expect Kansas City is going to keep piecing things together and get things rolling. Buffalo has looked a little curious, to say the least. But so these teams are going to start logging in a better competition, but the AFC is passing us by with the fury.
Absolutely. I'm going to do a few shout outs before we continue. One, what's up, you guys in the chat right now watching live? Gorgon Ninkovsky, Brandon Wood, Sade Loading, and then, of course, John Davis is in here as well. Appreciate each and every one of you. Shout out to Brian Walton, who dropped a tip, as you can see right here in my tip jar. Well, it's not technically mine. This jar right here is for Loyalists. You can see the bar down here. We're raising $400 to get him a laptop. And today's stream is specifically, part of that reason, right? I mean, it's kind of difficult right now. He's not able to use his 5G. His phone's got to use, specific Wi-Fi. Not very great. A laptop will help him in creating more content. So we thank each and every one of you. Brian Walton dropped that $10 this morning, right? Wasn't even live today. Dropped $10 into the tip jar. We appreciate you so much. We are a little over 1/5 of the way there at $85. We have raised since I started that live stream game reaction on Sunday. So we appreciate you. Each and every one of you guys are really stepping up and helping us to be able to do more of this content for you. So thank you. Any words you want to shout out on that there, Loyalist?
I just like you guys said. I mean, this is an awkward situation for me. I'm not the guy, that does this thing, but I understand and appreciate it more than I can. I mean, Laura's told me about this, and I'm like, you're not even going to get $1, So the fact that there's people, feeling like that, that's worth $85 out of their pocket. I mean, I know how weak the dollar is right now, guys, and I can't tell you how much I really appreciate it.
As we were talking, Big Play Slay, subscribe to the channel. Appreciate that. Each and every one of you. Please don't forget to like this video and subscribe if you're not subscribed to the way Big Play Slay has. And don't forget to share and make sure you hit that notification button. Because if you don't have that notification, you're not notified when we upload a video or go live. When I say upload, I mean like my Darius Leonard film room that I just dropped just a few hours before we started here. And then this, I'm on a time limit constraint right now on this because I got to join Ray Rout's stream today at 7:30. And then at 10:30, I believe I'm joining Green Bean Jets Fan Podcast on his live show. So make sure you go check him out. Subscribe, hit notify. That way you are notified when we go live and I'm on there and you can support the Colts on a Jets fan. And speaking of the Jets, you were just talking about, some of these games. The Jets have beaten 2 5+ win teams this year. Mm-hmm. The Colts have not. The Colts' best team that they have beaten so far this year is a 2-win team. All right? And the Jets have beaten Cincinnati and the Titans. Holy crap, man. So, no, this is definitely not a gimme game. The Colts are going to have to come in here with a serious outlook, hoping to win on a short week at that. So, any thoughts so far with what you saw? Because we really didn't get a chance to talk to you about what you saw this past Sunday against the Titans. What were your thoughts on the game?
These 2 Titan games just drive me crazy because you sit there and you tell me that you're going to hold Derrick Henry to less than 70 yards. Julio Jones wasn't even in this game. But then you turn around and figure out how the game before in week 3, we took away A.J. Brown and Julio Jones. I mean, to me, when you make these teams one-dimensional, everybody's busting the chops on the defense. But it's like, look, I understand these guys need to stop, in the passing game also. But we made them one-dimensional. We did everything that we were supposed to do from a defensive side, aside from stopping them from putting points on the board. And it's so frustrating. You know what I mean? And I see a lot of good things. I mean, Okereke this year has shown out, especially in these last 2 or 3 weeks, superbly in the run game. Things that we didn't see up until this year. You know what I mean? Our backups, all of our backups, I don't care, pick a position. They're all getting a lot of good playing time and stuff. Coach made a statement. He heard Jonathan going, "Oh man, this second team looks just as good as tough on the offensive line as the first squad." And you think about it, you got Lewinsky and you've got Penter. I mean, we really do have, so in other words, I guess our offensive line has really showed up, finally over these last couple of weeks. Now, I'm not to say that it's been perfect. I'm just trying to point out that there's a lot of bright sides to what we saw, but the infuriating piece of this is just not winning these games at 3 turnovers. You're supposed to win that game. You hold Derrick Henry to 70 yards. You're supposed to win that. You've got a freaking 19-point lead against the Ravens. You're supposed to win that game. That's the thing that I find the most infuriating about this is, and it's not, everybody wants to sit there and blame the coach, or everybody wants to blame the quarterback. This team game, this is a team effort. This is, I feel like there was different areas throughout where these guys could have changed the outcome of these 3 particular games specifically.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's not like, yes, you might be able to point at, well, the offense kind of failed us on this game, or the special teams failed us on this game, or the defense failed us on this game. It's not like it's focused on one thing, or coaching might have failed us on another game. Everybody has a bad game, right? And And the thing is you got to have the rest of the team there to prop you up and overcome that. That's a problem because we have not been able to close these games out. So we got an issue with, see Cyborg down here saying, put a run the damn ball on hat on Wentz. I have this funny feeling he'd wear it in a heartbeat. I think he'd wear it. I don't think he's a guy that would shy away from running the football when Jonathan Taylor's doing well, because that puts less stress on his shoulders. Of course he wants to play well. Everybody in the NFL wants to play well, especially a quarterback. But running the ball helps you, He knows that when you got a really good run game, that is going to open up the back side of the field of the defense for him and make his throws even easier. So, quarterbacks aren't stupid. They're quarterbacks for a reason. It means they're smart, or at least for the most part. I'm not going to say every quarterback is smart, but most of them are. But I think sometimes certain things get away from certain players, certain coaches, and you don't think about certain things at the time. Like, for instance, this past Sunday, the 51 passes to 16 Jonathan Taylor runs. That's not a good ratio. That's not a good ratio at all. We don't want to see that. And I understand, run the damn ball. I get it. And we need to see more of that. And I think we probably will against the Jets. We need to see a lot of stuff. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. And the thing for me is Coach, he says this is a run-first team and everything, but I think Coach, every year that he's been the coach for this team, has showed that he is much more geared towards going to the passing. And he says that, Jonathan Taylor's getting, 18 and then the run. I don't care. When you have a 14-point lead, okay, you run Jonathan Taylor, especially when he's averaging 5+ yards a carry. I know at the end of the game he wasn't, but in the first half he was 5.5 yards a carry. Well, let me think about that. Every time twice he touches the ball, we got first downs. And I just, like I said, I love this coach. I love the competitive nature he brings to it, but I do feel like there's certain elements to the game that he's just going to gear towards the pass. Okay, he's a quarterback. This is, he knows that that's the side that this league's bread is buttered on or whatever you mean. But to me, like I said, this team so well built for the run game. And then we've been touting this offensive line, and now, this offensive line that we have this year versus what we've had in years past even. I like these guys. I like what Reed has brought to this. I still have a lot of belief that, Fisher is going to just gradually keep getting better. And then, you got the three mainstays, Braden, Q, and Ryan. You can't ask for much of a better offensive line. And in this backfield, it's like, why are we not using these guys? And he says, well, I gave Owen 2 touches, Naheem 1. No, I don't care. I need to know Jonathan Taylor's being handed the damn ball. Sorry about my language. And run it. You know what I mean? Just get this thing continuous moving. I love Coach. I do. I defend him in a lot of ways, but like you kept saying through the game, why are we, why isn't this? I'm like, I keep saying, run first team, pass first coach. It's like, that's what it is. And that to me is a good balance because that is going to keep these guys guessing. But there again, I feel like there's times that run game is just neglected. It's like, oh, okay, we're going to ride you to get us where we need, but then we're just going to leave you behind once we get there. And it's like, no, man, that's when you really want to be banging these guys in that fourth quarter. Whenever that's what we see from Henry for the last 3 years. You get beat up the first 3 quarters by Derrick Henry, and I'm not saying that JT is Derrick Henry, but he still has that same effect, that same bruising effect. That the fourth quarter, all right, now, who's going to want to get in front of JT whenever he's still got that full head of steam and behind this amazing offensive line?
That is true. I'm going to get into a little bit about that run game here in just a moment due to a comment in the chat. But I do want to get in the chat real fast. John in here says, hi, all the games that we're expected to win are the scary ones to me, and I feel you on that one. Charday says that I honestly believe we can beat both the Bucks and the Bills. And the way we've played against the really good teams so far this year, I agree with you on that. We just got to be able to close it out and win it, right? That's the problem that the Colts have had. Charday says that, I still have faith. Adrian says AFC is very competitive. Missing the playoffs is not that awful. We try at least. And that's the thing. We don't know. We haven't missed the playoffs yet. The margin for error is incredibly slim right now. And that's why we're in distress. We have to, we're right there where we were this time last year, or this time in 2018. This time in 2018, the Colts were 3-5, right? They made the playoffs. It is possible, but very, very slim pickings here right now. We got to start. We need to get on a win streak and beat a couple good teams out there. Brandon says something I 100% agree with. The holding calls IMO cost us more than the Wentz interceptions. When you have a pass first coach and the run game isn't working or getting called back, he's going to rely on throwing the football. And that's what happened. Did you know Jonathan Taylor had 67 yards called back on 2 holding calls? He had 2 runs, both over 30 yards. 2 runs over 30 yards, 1 called back by holding on Ryan Kelly, 1 called back by Reed. And that, we can't have that. You look, if those didn't happen, this could have been a completely different game. Changed everything. And obviously, Jonathan Taylor's stats, you'd have been looking at it going, holy crap, Jonathan Taylor averaged 8 yards a carry, 9 yards a carry in this game. Had 120 yards, 130 yards. Or maybe even more, like Brandon's saying, had those not been called back, Frank Reich might have pushed run the ball more often than what had happened. So, you could put a little bit of blame on that offensive line as well for getting holding calls. Now, were they out there mauling people? Yes. That offensive line looked good. Other than the holding calls, for the most part, they looked pretty good in this game. They did well in pass protection overall. They did well in the run blocking game overall. But the Colts are shooting themselves in the foot too much. The penalties are really hurting. We got to stop that. The Colts are not a team that is generally big on having penalties. And, we can't have that going on into the future at all.
Yeah, I agree completely. But I will say, I don't – yes, the penalties and the run game stunk, but I don't think that affected Reich because, it's not like this is game 1 where we've seen this, this pattern where he – how many times have we sat there and said JT in the fourth quarter and overtime, he's only getting 1 touch or 2 touches. Honestly, to me, if you're going to sit there and say, okay, this guy got a penalty, I'm not going to call run plays anymore. That's like sitting there saying, okay, every time that there's an offensive pass interference, we're not going to call pass plays anymore. I don't know that mindset. I understand that it's frustrating, but the run.
I just lost you, so I'm going to say something real quick. The thing is.
No, I stopped because you said something.
Oh, yeah, okay. I want to say something real quick. I don't like the fact that he went away from the run in the fourth quarter. But Brandon's point does have a point because holding is not a 5-yard penalty. That's a 10-yard penalty. Okay? So if it's first down, he busts out a 35-yard run, and then it gets called back. And all of a sudden, now you're first and 20. You're in pass mode at that point, right? You are pretty much in pass mode at that point. And that's a 40-plus yard differential right there.
Until you get the first down.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. But for that next 20 yards, you're in pass mode. So that does limit the amount of runs that are technically on the stat sheet, because that big old run, it's off the board. It's no longer on the stat sheet. You know, that one attempt and that 30 yards, gone. The other attempt for 36 yards, gone. You know, so those are off the stat sheet, and it puts your offense in a 1st and 20 or 2nd and 16, whatever it is at that point in time, and that hurts. But in the fourth quarter, I am 100% with everybody out there. There were multiple times we were never in danger of getting, you know, the lead out. We were always on the drive we were at. We were either tied or on the drive to win with plenty of time right up until that last interception, that first interception of Carson Wentz. We had time. In the fourth quarter on that last drive, we could have ran the ball. And he did. He ran it a couple times, but then went away from it, right? And went like 4 passes straight in a row. I do think we need to utilize Jonathan Taylor's ground game, especially in the fourth quarter and in overtime, if we happen to be in overtime, because that's the time to do it. That's when Jonathan Taylor's aggressive nature and his speed can kill a defense. And that does make me wonder a little bit. And I can't throw blame on Reich. I get it. I understand that Carson Wentz, his job can directly be affected by, you know, Frank Reich can be blamed for that as well, because, you know, if Carson Wentz is audibling out of a run call, then it's up to Frank Reich to say, no, don't do that. But at the same time, Frank's not going to do that. Frank's not going to do that because he's got to trust his quarterback to make the right call on the line. And if Carson Wentz sees, say, 8-9 guys running up into the box or something, or he thinks that they're playing run hard, he has the option to get out and go into a pass play. But so I don't know who to blame reality-wise. I don't know if Frank Reich's just not calling the run plays, if Carson Wentz is going out of the run plays, you know, audibling out, but Frank Reich is still calling them. And then I got to look at the tape to find out what that defense is showing on whether or not a run play could have been ran there, you know, because I mean, I'll be honest with you. If there's 8 guys in the box, I would rather Carson Wentz kind of pull back on the reins and say, all right, we're going to throw out here right over the linebackers or something. That's just, you know, you do what the defense gives you, you know, and Frank Reich is all about that. Now, defensively, I think as a defense, you make an offense play to you. As an offense, you give what the defense gives you. That's just how a good offense plays that way. They have the ability to hit anywhere on the field and do any play on the field and just take whatever the defense gives you. You hear it from everybody all the time, and that's the right way to do it. You know, don't try to force a run against a 9-man box. Don't try to force a pass into umbrella coverage. You know, you don't do that. Now, am I saying that Carson Wentz played a perfect game? No. Go ahead.
I was sitting there thinking, you know, and that's the thing. That's the good, but the bad with the Colts. Okay, we love the fact that nobody's pointing the finger. We love the fact that this locker room's tight and stuff. But then whenever we're trying to figure out the answers and stuff, you have to understand that these same quality guys aren't going to sit there and say, oh, yeah, I should have had the ball 7 or 8 times in the fourth quarter, you know. Oh, they're not going to sit there and say, oh, no, the coach screwed that one up. You know what I mean? And that's the thing. So that's the good to go along with the bad. And it's like, you know, you sit there and you watch it, and I've played football. I've enjoyed football most of my entire life. Started at 6. Okay, you know what I mean? But like I said, the thing is I don't sit there and believe that I know more than they do. Okay, and that's why, you know, there again, like the coach saying, okay, I made a bad call on the screen pass with my back, you know, to the end zone. For me personally, everything I've ever learned, I'm like, that's the last thing in the world you want. Okay, but if I'm sitting there watching an entire professional football team. Because, yes, coach made that play call, but, is Carson, does he not have the ability to say, no, let's check out of that? Coach has lost his mind for a minute. You know what I mean? So, like I said, I'm not really sure, but I don't worry about trying to put the blame on any one person, because there again, I'm so much a believer that this is a team game. You know what I mean? And there were so many opportunities that this defense had to stop a drive. You know what I mean? And then there were so many opportunities where the offense had to continue these drives. Heck, I don't know how yet. I haven't looked at it, but I'm sure there's a way to blame the special teams. You know what I mean? There's always just so many different things that go into an entirety to tell the whole story of a game. But a question I've been wondering lately is, we keep hearing, oh, I'm going to learn from this and I'm going to get better. And I've always taught my kids, learn from your mistakes. Make sure you're not making the same mistakes over and over, because then you're just stuck. And that's what I'm wondering. Do I see the improvements? Okay. Yes, I do see that Carson is checking down more, throughout the game. But then again, you sit there and you look at that overtime, that final interception he threw when he was trying to find Pittman. JT, I don't think there's my nephew came over to watch the game with me. He's never enjoyed football until this year for the first time he's trying to get into it. First thing he says, why didn't he throw the 28? And I'm like, this kid has only been around football for 6 months, and he's saying the same things that I am. I'm like, why? He's 20 yards, first down, drive continues. All we need is a field goal. So there's so many different ways. And like I said, I respect that these guys are out there trying to make the decision in the heat of the battle. And you don't, as a fan, we see it a lot differently than what they see on the field. You know what I mean? So I respect that. But it is still, as a fan, from my perspective, it is so frustrating to sit there and still see these simple decisions that turn out to be just catastrophic whenever you choose to throw into quadruple coverage in overtime. You know what I mean? It's like when you've got a JT. Did you see Mo Alley's reaction to it? During the play and stuff, he was the under pattern underneath, and you just seen he was physically like, why not me? You know what I mean? And it's just like, and hey, Mo Alley may have been open, but man, JT looked like he was ready to run for the president.
All right, so there's some more people out here. Appreciate Cyborg being in here, and Toxic Tommy, and P Draggy in here as well. Now, Cyborg says those 8-9 man boxes could also be fake formation. That's why a quarterback has to read that. Look at where they're at. If those 8-9, if they're lining up on the line of scrimmage all tight, you pass, because you're going to bet that your tight ends and your wide receivers are going to be able to get behind those guys that are crowded up on the line of scrimmage. If you run the ball, they're already there. It's easier for them to get there. Now, yes, obviously there is a chance for a running back to get through an 8-9 man box and break a big one, but the odds of that are slim. Okay, getting through that first initial roll. It can happen. Jonathan Taylor's done it. But, good question here. Where is it? I just missed it. Toxic Tommy says, what do you think the Colts' optimal run-pass ratio is? I'd like to see somewhere between 55-45 or 60-40, okay? Which means the Colts were about 10 runs shy of that this past Sunday, right? If you'd have cut that to 41 passes and about 28 runs, I'd have been good. At least then that you were actually in there trying to do so. But that's the problem. That's what didn't happen. Another thing in here, we was talking about how, had that screen pass worked, he would have been, Frank Reich would have been called a genius. By your average fan, yes. By your average run-of-the-mill fan, yes, it would have been. That's a bad play call in that situation. And
by a results-oriented.
Yeah, your average fan.
Yeah, somebody who's...
I want to put up a real quick right now. Everybody talks about where Frank Reich schemes himself out of stuff. I don't hear a single person right here on Twitter, anywhere, talk about how that Wildcat play to tie the damn ball game was a bad play at the 1 yard line. Right? You remember that? Where Carson Wentz moved to the left, direct snap to Nyheim Hines. Nyheim Hines ran the option, and Jonathan Taylor ran it in for a touchdown. That's a very similar one of them weird scheme plays that just pops out of nowhere that Frank Reich uses that people complain about all the time. But it worked, and no one's saying squat about how that was a bad play because it worked. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
No, there was no takers on Marlon Mack today.
You know who they?
Go ahead. Sorry.
You know who was the hero in that play for me was Nyheim. Because now imagine this: you're giving a guy, you're snapping the ball to a guy, and you're saying, "I know that you can make this play. You've only touched the ball 3 times today, but here's your opportunity to score a touchdown and be the hero." But no, you've got to decide to give it to your teammate. Now you want to tell me this ain't a team sport?
That's
Nyheim Hines shows his character in spades right there.
That you are right there. All right, that shows his character. You're right. He hardly touched the ball. He's hardly touched the ball at all this year, and he just gave up that touchdown. Right? He had a shot at doing it himself. Mm-hmm. He had a shot. Had he made one man miss at the line of scrimmage, he could have probably got in too. Now, Charday says that I bet Wright goes away from that Wildcat play. He probably won't play it again this year. You're right. Because now, who's to say he might use a different Wildcat play, right? But generally, those special plays are used once a year. But you have a bag full of them. And you practice those plays, throughout the season for specific situations, right? And he's got a bunch of them. You see those kind of weird shuffle pass plays. People talk about get rid of the shuffle pass. They both ended up being horrible interceptions, and that kind of stuff. I'm sitting there going, you know what? 80% of the time, those plays end up being a big-time play, end up successful in the NFL, all right? 80% of the time, those plays are successful in the NFL. They just did not work out that time. It'll happen again. They will use it again. And the odds are it'll work next time. And then when he does it, how many of the people out there that said get rid of it is going to be like, that was a terrible play call, you should have never done it, even though it went for 14 yards and a touchdown? Probably nobody. I'm just saying, because if it succeeds, you don't complain about it. It's out of your mind. If it fails, you were on it like Donkey Kong, and you want to talk about how bad it is. That tight end screenplay, loved the screenplay. Not where they were at. I didn't like the fact that Carson Wentz, they were putting Carson Wentz in a no-win situation, backed up in his own end zone, right? Because there was only 2 options on that screenplay. One of them was off the board by the time he was able to do anything, and it was a split-second decision. You're giving free rushers straight to Carson Wentz and saying, get the ball to Mo Alley Cox. He had no run. He could not dirt it at Mo Alley Cox's feet. Why? And I'll tell you why. Ryan Kelly was right there with Mo Alley Cox, which means if that ball would have landed at Ryan Kelly's feet, closer to Mo Alley Cox's feet, that's intentional grounding, automatic safety. You have to punt the ball away, right? He couldn't throw the football away. That's a safety. He couldn't run away because it's a screenplay and you let everybody come at you. So he was in a no-win situation at that point in time. You don't do it backed up that far, all right? And that was a bad move by Reich, and I will state that. Frank Reich's not perfect. There's no coach in the NFL that's perfect. But you know what? For the majority of this year, and I can honestly say that for the majority of this year, I've agreed with the majority, like 95% of his play calls. If I only disagree with 2 or 3 play calls in a game, I'm going to say he's a heck of a coach. You know, because every coach makes weird decisions. I don't care. Go look at Bill Belichick. He makes weird-ass calls all the time, you know, and sometimes he gets reamed for it, sometimes he don't. Every coach goes through that. I'd rather have Frank Reich than 90% of the other coaches in the NFL right now. And those of you who want to talk about firing him, who are you going to replace him with? Really? There's no one out there as good as Frank Reich right now. Not available. I'll guarantee it. Anyhow, that's my rant. I'm sorry for holding you up there, loyalists. Guys, please smash that like button, hit subscribe if you're not subscribed, tag that notification bell so that you are notified next time I go live. Don't forget you can use the link in the description to donate to Loyalist's laptop here that we're trying to get $400 for. We are at 21.5% of that, $85 so far. Every little bit helps. Thank you so much. And yeah, big play, Slay. I seen that you subbed, and I talked about that actually earlier, so I appreciate that very, very much. Sharday asked a question, and I'm going to direct it at you, Loyalist. What's your thoughts on Rhodes' piss-poor tackle attempt on A.J. Brown? Have at it.
Oh, Sharday. I'm telling you what, I'm not a fan of the cornerback position just in general because they always seem to try to, you know, have that individualized person. And I feel the same from Rhodes, and it's like, hey, whatever, you know what? But when you start when you start not making plays due to lack of that, especially when your team just turned the ball over in the most screwed up way known to man, and you know there's just been this massive momentum switch. I mean, he was there. You know, I mean, good gosh, he was there, and I don't care. I mean, you know what, Rhodes, go back, watch Pat McAfee, and see how he treats guys whenever they're on the sideline. That's what I want to see from Rhodes. I want to see him just blow somebody up, get him out of bounds. I don't care if he's bigger than you, stronger than you. That effort was embarrassing. And I am so over this whole
keep talking. My wife is yelling. I'll be right back. I think there's something going on, so keep talking.
All righty, yeah, but Sharday, you hit a button for me. I mean, like I said, the whole Rhodes effort and just the way he sat there and was like, okay, I'm here to make a play. I'm going to give this arm crap or whatever you want to call it. And then just sat there, and after he got past him, I mean, you see next to no effort. I mean, next to no effort whatsoever. And it just – that goes against everything that makes this defense successful. So to sit there and think that, you know, I just would love to be in the defensive room and sit there and see how big of a loaf he gets for that particular play. I mean, that is just crazy. I'll be honest with you guys. I'm not real sure. I can't see the chat or anything. So I'm just going to sit here and ramble like a crazy man. Hope everything's all right over there with Lawrence. And I apologize. I can't answer questions and stuff. Here again, using the phone, so it's like all I've got. But, yeah, like I said, this defense sits there and prides himself on never giving up on plays and stuff. And to me, that was just the clearest sign of give up that I've seen in a really long time. And it's just, oh, wow, Sharday, you hit a button there. Like I said, that one there just makes my skin crawl in every way, shape, or form.
All right, I'm sorry.
Welcome back, sir.
So my wife had a small conniption. She had to run me downstairs. Apparently there was a spider about that big on the door, and it wasn't a daddy long leg. So and she freaks out over those. She was like, "That's a T-Rex with 8 legs." So I had to take care of that. Sorry, guys.
Very familiar with that outlook.
All right.
I keep talking, but I don't know what's being asked. Whether you could use a minute.
All right, Fuzzy. Thank you so much. Fuzzy's dropped the most money in this jar. He dropped so much money, some of the coins just jumped out the jar and went down. Oh, man, we lost some of that. Fuzzy Whistler just dropped $25 towards Loyalist's laptop. Appreciate that. It says, let's go, fellas. Let's get our boy Loyalist that laptop. Thank you so much, Fuzzy. Appreciate that. Miss a Knife says, husband duties. Yeah, that's pretty much what it was. Husband duties, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It is what it is. I got to do what I got to do.
It's better that you had to deal with a spider and not an intruder.
Well, yeah. That would have been different. Inside the Horseshoe Podcast, appreciate you being here. Says that tackle will haunt me for days. You mean that lack of tackle? I'm sure that's what you meant. But yeah,
yes.
That was. I think he thought that AJ stepped out, but it didn't happen. He just gone. He was gone. It kind of reminds.
And who cares? Who cares? You don't just think.
Mm-hmm.
I say, who cares if you think somebody went out? You know what I mean? Did you hear a whistle? I mean, he's been in this league for how long? He knows that play's not over, and that effort was definitely not enough to get A.J. Brown out of bounds.
Well, you also have to be – I get it. You also have to be careful with those boundary line things. Obviously, if he feels like – if he's out of bounds and he lights him up, then he could be hit for, what's that called? Unnecessary roughness. But he was not anywhere close to being endangered for being flagged for unnecessary roughness. If anything, he would have been flagged for unnecessary attempt to tickle. Okay? So, yeah, that's just not it. My wife's in here. She's saying, sorry, guys. That's Avalon 2 is my wife, to let you know. She's apologizing for pulling me away from the stream. I forgot to add attempt after tackle. That's all good. That's all good, Horseshoe. Another thing I want to bring up. I wish the best to Taekwon Lewis.
Mm-hmm.
Because that is horrible. That series of events was horrible. Him being out for the season is horrible. Because he was having a good season. He was having an increased season this year. He was playing much better. Similar to how he closed last year out with. He had that interception, and then his knee just gave way. It's not an ACL or a piece or an MCL, but it's still season ending, and that sucks. That just it sucks because that was a 14-point swing right there, right? The play right before the missed tackle that we were talking about, because odds are Colts would have scored there. They were in really good field goal position. They had the ball, in their own, on the right side of the 50-yard line. They probably would have scored there. They had a lot of momentum. Everything was going their way. They would have took a 21-point lead at that point. Game would have probably pretty much been put away at that point. And Jonathan Taylor would have probably ended up with 30 carries on the day at that point. So that play really, in my opinion, turned the tide of this game. That was the tide turner, was Taekwon Lewis going down with the season-ending injury.
Yeah, and it's such a microcosm of the way this Colts season has been because, you sit there and you're like, okay, they're moving this ball down and you want somebody to make a play. Boom. Taekwon steps up. He makes a play. Like you said, everybody's hyped. We're super, something really good happened for the Colts. And then before the end of the play, even, all of a sudden it went from something really amazing to just something out of like, are you kidding me? And like you said, I don't, people are beating up Taekwon or whatever. And it's like, you know what, guys, get that garbage out of here. Because the guy, he did everything right. His body sold him out. And the thing was, you know what? Until you've experienced that piercing pain or that unexpected snapping of a ligament or a tendon when you're just actively doing your job or whatever.
Your mind,
I mean, man,
your mind is not on the football
people are like,
anymore.
well, he should have held on to the ball. No, sir. Especially a guy that's not used to carrying it. Especially a guy that, maybe 3 times in his life has he found himself in that position from grade school all the way up to the NFL where he's like, oh, I've got the ball and they're trying to tackle me. That's not his comfort zone.
No, I
and to sit there and say, oh, well, he should have went down or whatever. Yeah. Like he said, I hope to God that this guy comes out, because the last 2 years he has really stepped up, and I like what that interior toughness that he gives his defensive line. He's one of the guys, everybody sits there and like, oh, Ballard's having trouble getting the ends. No. Taekwon Lewis is not a bust. Taekwon Lewis, if you want to put it on the scale of things, I feel like is a very good pick for Chris Ballard to put on the pro side of his drafting, capabilities.
You know what's funny? I am really close to saying Kamoko Toure is not a bust. He's made a defensive play every game that he has played this year. Every game but one. I think he leads the team in sacks. I'm not 100%. Let me go check that out, but I think I might be right on that. He is really, when he's out on the field, he does a really good job. Hold on. Colts.
Yeah, it's sort of that. I mean, Taekwon Lewis, Paris Campbell, Kamoko Toure, when these guys are on the field, they're producing. When these guys are on the field, they're able to give this team what we need in those positions. The problem is, like you said, even Taekwon, he's had a lot of injuries in his career. Not to the extent that Kamoko and Paris have, but it's just these 3 guys are just in this proverbial web of injuries. Like you said, every time they start getting the momentum going, all of a sudden, boom, something pops up or pops, for lack of a better,
Yeah.
And then, like you said, then all of a sudden that momentum is halted.
So he's got 3 sacks, 23 yards on the sacks in 5 games. That's not bad. He's tied with Al-Qadim Muhammad on sacks, and the leader of sacks is DeForest Buckner, who has 4. But still, 3 sacks in 5 games, I'll take that. That's double-digit sacks in a season. If he plays, that's like 12 sacks in a season if he plays every game. Now, obviously, he isn't playing every game, but he's doing pretty good for being that guy. Ben Banagoo is a no-show. No-show. What's up with that? What are your thoughts on that?
See, here again, this is sort of that we go to training camp, we watch them in training camp, and we're impressed. We're impressed because what we see out there and stuff, and him and Davenport both did really well in training camp. But then whenever the pressure started mounting, whenever games started meaning something and stuff, both of these guys reverted back to the meeting or to what we have come to know from these guys. Now, that's not to sit there and say that Banogu isn't going to be able to be a decent player in the NFL. I don't know. He's not fitting in with this scheme or whether it's this coaching staff. But, yeah, I don't even know that he makes the team next year. I know he's still under contract and everything. But quite honestly, with all the people that Ballard had brought in on this defensive line, I could see him being a casualty of his own lack of success. And the same with Davenport. You sit there and you start watching, and it's like, it's sort of smoke and mirrors because you just never know with preseason training camp because, when you're up against your team, you're not going 100%. When you're up against somebody else's team, you're not against their best. So it's like, yeah, these guys shine, and then like that, once rubber starts beating the road, that's when their tires go flat.
All right, guys, we're getting close to the end of this stream. I'm gonna have to end it here soon. Please smash that like button, hit subscribe, not subscribe, tag that notification bell. Don't forget the Backroom Collection. They specially made this. You could buy one for yourself on the backroomcollection.net. This channel is proudly sponsored by the Backroom Collection. They do beautiful sports canvas art with football, basketball, baseball, and other sports themes. Special orders are accepted and autograph pieces are available. Many Indianapolis Colts sign pieces will be available beginning in November. Just use your discount code CL10 to purchase the pieces you want to spice up your living area. That's CL10. Don't forget, when we're done here, please go check out my new Darius Leonard film room I just dropped down. I thought I did a good job on it. What was your thoughts, Loyalist? Did you think I did okay? Have you seen it?
The only thing I needed a little work was the title. Yeah,
Okay.
I even typed a little message. You have the title is, what was it? King. Yeah, and I sat there and,
Yeah, because of my Cobra
No,
strike. Yeah.
like I said, King Cobra, yeah. Because if you guys watch it, yeah. And I just kept imagining, sitting there watching like some old Chinese movie and seeing Darius Leonard go, wow, and stuff like that.
Guys, don't forget, if you also want to support us, but you just don't have the money to drop in the tip jar like some of these guys like Brian Walton and Fuzzy Whistler and them, please go check us out on Newsbreak. Link is in the description right below here, the description of the video. And it's free. It's free, and we post stuff on there. You can give us a follow. It puts money in our pockets. Appreciate you very much. This video is sponsored by Newsbreak. Newsbreak is an app used over 1.5 billion times a month by people just like you to get local news via articles or videos by those who are focused on that specific area. People like myself. Just use the link in the description of this video to download it. Then search a city, state, or someone specific, like myself, Colts Law. Then make sure to follow them so you'll get all the news fresh as it comes out. And just to let you know that the tip jar is open 24/7. You notice that, like I said, Brian Walton dropped $10 in the tip jar for Loyalist's laptop this morning. We weren't live, but I still brought it up. It's sitting right over there on the side of Loyalist where it shows it. And if you drop any kind of a chat or a question or a remark or anything of that nature, I will bring it up and we will discuss it the next time we go live. Don't forget to check out Ray Route when he uploads that. And then, of course, tonight at 10:30 on Green Bean Sports Fan. And do you have any last words that you'd like to say before we get out of here, Loyalist?
Yeah, like I said, Colts fans, let's just stay strong. Let's just know that these guys are working in progress, and go Colts.
Go Colts. Until next time, I'm Lawrence Owen. That's Colts Loyalist, and as usual, have a good one.